Hi everyone, I'm Magic Dave and this is Sapiens. So it's only been 2 days since I recorded the last video and I just took a day off yesterday and went surfing, which was actually lovely. It was really nice. But yeah, so I'm back to work today and as I said in the last video, I'm just going to mix things up a little bit and try recording little progress updates as I go along through the through the process, rather than sort of doing all the work and then going and doing a recap at the end. I thought it might be interesting to sort of show a bit more of my sort of creative process and how I do things. So we'll see how it goes, but that's the plan. So I would like to start working on farming. Now, farming actually might not be quite the right word for what I'm planning to do here. It's basically just I want you to be able to plant fruits. You know, that's the end goal here, to grow plants and trees and stuff. Maybe birch trees. I'm still not sure yet whether birches and aspens and stuff, whether you have seeds or sort of a sapling based thing. It might be that you actually sort of can place the branches, or I'm not really sure, but I'm still thinking about that. But anyway, the first step that I'm going to work on is to add some UI for sort of planting stuff. And basically it's going to work very similar to the placing of objects and the building of things. So yeah, you'll sort of select it from the view there and then place where you want it. And you'll see a full a full representation of the fully grown plant. And then there'll probably need to be some controls to plant multiple things too. So I think that might be tied into the skills system and stuff, but I guess, you know, I'm getting a bit carried away, getting a bit far ahead. But initially, yeah, I'm just going to basically add another option to this menu that's going to be to plant stuff. And I'm going to then sort of populate it and, yeah, get them actually able to you know, go pick up an apple, put it in the ground, and then have it grow over time. Yeah, so I'm going to get started on that and we'll see how I get on. Okay, so I've had a pretty productive morning. So I sort of don't have an extra button here yet. I started looking at that and I think it's time to basically tidy this up a little bit. You know, these are tabs. This one still doesn't do anything. We've got two different sort of modes of placing stuff, and there's going to be a new plant mode here. But I thought these should maybe be sort of circles up the top here instead, sort of different modes, and it seemed like the right time to attack this problem that's been around for a while, where if I right click I get this sort of build or place menu coming up, and if I left click then I get this menu, and here's a little spoiler here. It just hasn't really been working for me. I keep right clicking when I mean to left click and left clicking when I mean to right click, and I thought I'd probably learn that and figure it out and it would all be fine, but it's not. I haven't figured it out. I keep doing the wrong thing, which means it's a problem. You know, it's not working. So I think the right thing to do is to have it so that when you left click you get all of the same options here. So we've got build, place, grow. Obviously these icons are placeholders, plant or grow, and tribe management. And if I click on that, then I get the build menu. So it's just another way of sort of getting into the build menu without having to remember that you've got to right click. So right click can still maybe be a shortcut to come in here. But if you want to just use left click on everything, you know, whether I click on a tree or not, you know, I've still got exactly the same kind of power here to quickly queue up actions, but I've also always got the ability to go in and manage the tribe or whatever. So I think that's pretty good. I will carry on with that. Yeah, there's more work to do here, but I might just now make it so that when you click on that, you now get those icons up here too, at which point I'll then have the plant icon and I can click on that and start working on the interface here for choosing what to plant. So I've now got a row of apple trees. This is the first row of apple trees to ever appear in the game, Sapiens. So yeah, we've got this new planting interface. So I've moved those buttons up along the top here. So they actually also match up now with the positions here. So if I sort of, you know, click here and then hit that, then these will all stay there. And I think that's all working quite nicely. Yeah, quite happy with all of that at the moment. So yeah, the plant menu, I went in and sort of fixed this up a little bit, tidied things up because there were a few issues with how the buttons were being shown and stuff. And also just tidied up the placing UI so that it now locks things that you haven't seen before or haven't crafted yet. and it'll show all the things that you've actually got access to first in the list, and then use that as the starting point to create this planting interface. And then when you select something, it's just like the build menu. You can see a full preview of where the fully grown tree is going to be. It doesn't have the leaves, so that's probably something I'll need to figure out and fix. And there's still quite a lot of work to do in various problems I need to sort out. But then once you click it, you've got the same interface. You can rotate the tree around to get it how you want, and away you go. So I think that's going to work pretty well. I did want to. I mean, I know that when you normally plant a tree, you don't have control over exactly how it's going to grow. But I think for a game, it's nice to be able to really have fine control over where you place things. So from here, as you saw, she just walked over. She grabbed an apple. So there is a good mapping between the fruit type, the seed type, and the tree and stuff. That was all relatively straightforward, but it's a bit too simple, I mean, and obviously the tree needs to take a bit of time to grow as well. So what's going to happen? You've got this kind of preview here. Once they bring an apple over, they'll probably have to dig and plant the apple, and then you'll just get sort of a little mound of dirt. And then some days later, you'll get a little sapling, and then some days after that, you'll get a tree, and then eventually you'll get fruit. So it's not going to be quite this instantaneous. And also, I'll need to add the skills requirements as well. So you'll need to, just like in the build menu here, you actually have to, have learnt the skills and things. So that's quite high on the to-do list as well. But yeah, tomorrow I think I'll just focus on getting that kind of life cycle thing happening with the sapling and the mound of dirt and everything, and we'll take it from there. Okay, so it's Monday here in New Zealand, and I've been working a little bit over the weekend. I've actually changed the night sky. It was using the Earth night sky. It was using, I think, the roughly 4,000 brightest stars and just rendering them as you would see from Earth. And I decided that that's just a bit weird because this is not Earth, and the the land masses are nothing like Earth's, and there's quite a few other differences too. So I thought it would be nice if you got a random night sky, but I've seen it doesn't really look good if you don't get the sort of distribution of brightness and stuff right. And also you sort of still want like a band of stars, sort of like the Milky Way. It feels like it needs to have a little bit of distribution that isn't completely random or sort of Perlin noise based or whatever. So what I ended up doing was taking the Earth night sky and then just shifting all the positions a little bit and then swapping over brightnesses and stuff. And I think it's a pretty good result. I did actually look into using the brightest stars in the galaxy of the entire Milky Way that we know, and actually using real data and putting a position somewhere in the galaxy and sort of rendering the night sky as it would be from that position. But unfortunately it turned out to be completely not feasible just because we don't have that data. We actually can't see past the center of the galaxy. We can't see past bright stars, and we don't actually know what half of the stars are in the galaxy. The data just doesn't exist. So that was a fun little experiment, but ultimately didn't really work out. But anyway, I'm pretty happy with this. It's nice to have a unique night sky for each planet, and have something that's not just Earth. I also got quite a few other little things done over the weekend. I just made a few tweaks to like it's now showing the cursor when you're sort of rotating things around, which I think is a nicer way of doing it than having sort of your head moving around as you're rotating. And I also did a whole lot of work on sort of redoing the ID mapping system for all of the objects and stuff to make it easier for me to add new types, because I was starting to think about planting of aspen and birch trees. And I think I will use seeds for that. So, they'll have a seed that you can gather. It probably won't be visible like peaches are because it's not that important, but the tree will have seeds that they can come and get if you've commanded that they plant a birch tree somewhere. And when I started looking at actually adding those seeds, it was just like, a whole lot of extra work per tree. You've already got issues with, having to add different wood types and branch types and log types, and then things that you might build out of that wood. And I just need to make it as simple as I can, because otherwise, it's just going to get too much work to add a new tree type. And I want heaps of different trees and heaps of different types of wood and stuff. So I've got to make it easy. So I did a bit of that work over the weekend. So now I've started thinking more about the process of actually planting a seed and what's going to happen. So I think that they should bring the seed in and place it next to where the plant's going to be or the tree's going to be, and then dig a hole and then put the seed in the hole. Because that basically follows the same process as sort of building a campfire or whatever. So this is the campfire model. There's a pile of rocks here and a pile of branches over here. They first bring a rock over, put it in the pile of rocks, and bring the branches over and everything. And then once all of the resources are here, they then take them from these stockpiles and put them in place, which is all working relatively well. The problem is that I'm having to specify all of these locations for all of the objects. So every time I add a new branch into the base model over here, I have to add a new branch into the stockpile over here. And if the scales of things change, then it's a problem, and I can't easily preview the sizes of these models properly and stuff. So things end up sort of floating in space, or it's just basically too hard to manage. And I do already have the code to stack items really nicely in the game, using code. So why not just use that? So I think that's probably where what I'm going to work on now. I'm basically going to just delete all of these individual placeholder items and replace them with a single one per resource type, and then write the code to actually pile them up procedurally. And that's going to work then really nicely for sort of planting trees. If it's missing the kind of position information in this model file, then it can just automatically derive one. And it can make sure that, things like if it's on a slope, then it can put it on the ground instead of floating it way up here, above the ground or whatever. Yeah, so I think this is the right solution, and probably starting with the campfire model, getting it all working for that, and then propagating that across the other models, and then finally getting back to trees is the right way forward. Okay, so I've got the new procedural placement of the in-progress building resources working. So as you can see, there's some hay on the ground here that's being used to build the roof. It's also working with like over here where the same model is actually on the ground. So here it's having to offset it further down. So it is casting rays down to the ground to find the position, and then it's procedurally stacking all of the items depending on their sort of sizes and all that kind of thing. So that's a lot better than it was before. If we just go into Blender, the model for this now just has these two placeholders, one for each resource type, and that just tells the engine where to put the stockpile. So that was a task that had been on my to-do list for some time, so it's really good to actually get that ticked off. It's starting to feel quite good, like I'm actually ticking off a lot of these sorts of tasks, and yeah, it's really feeling like it's starting to come together. Yeah, it wasn't strictly necessary to do that in order to get this farming mechanic working, but I think it made sense to do it then, and it will make the job of getting them to just bring over the fruit and then dig a hole and plant the tree a little bit easier for me. All right, so that all went pretty well. I'm going to just plant an apple tree, and they will go and pick an apple, bring it over, and put it beside the tree trunk, and then dig a hole. There's no particle animations or anything yet. I've got to sort of sort that out. And their heads go crazy when they're digging at the moment. But anyway, and then they put the apple in the hole, and again, there'll be a little bit of extra animation there. And there we go, we've got a sapling. And yeah, so if I now skip past a couple of seasons, which I can do by just hitting midday. Obviously, I need seasonal variations for these models as well. So we're into spring now and get to summer, and the tree grows. So there's no fruit on it yet, so that'll be the next step. And I think it'll just, there we go, autumn, the apples appear. So I might sort of pad that out a little bit extra, make it so that you need to wait sort of a full year before it'll fruit, and also make sure that a full year has passed before it goes from the sapling stage to the fully grown tree stage. So there are obviously a few more things that I need to do just to sort of tidy up loose ends and add in the different trees and all the other plants as well. But overall, it's pretty much what I had imagined this would be, and it's all sort of working relatively nicely. And yeah, I was actually really happy with the process of actually adding this feature, of adding all this functionality. It was relatively straightforward, so I'm feeling quite good about how the code's sort of designed, to be able to get all of this working within a week, even with a few distractions along the way. So it's feeling pretty good. So please let me know in the comments what you think of this new format where I've sort of explained what I'm doing as I do it. It was probably about the same amount of work, maybe a little bit more work for me than how it was before, but I'm quite happy to keep doing this if you prefer it. But if you sort of maybe liked it better before, I guess before it was probably a bit better sort of put together and a little bit more ordered, whereas this is a little bit more haphazard because I don't really know what I'm going to do at any given point. So yeah, just let me know in the comments, and I'll do whatever you guys think is best. So yeah, we'll leave it at that for this week, and we'll see how things end up going. I actually don't know what I'm going to work on next after I've finished off all these trees, so we'll just have to wait and see.